fans, and welcome to a brand new edition of Cubs on Tap. We did not have a Sunday show. The reason for that is our opening day crew had a case of the opening day flu. But we are back. It's Tuesday night. I am Ron Luce, joined by none other than Nick Hudson and Mr. Bobby Foster. Gentlemen, we are coming to everyone live on the heels of a Chicago Cubs series of victory over the Texas Rangers. Let's just start there. How are we feeling after another series win against a very respectable opponent?
Fantastic. So it's fun. It's fun again to watch this team. At least right now it is.
We'll talk about that a little bit later. Bobby, are you echoing the same message?
Yeah, pretty much. But I'm more along the lines of, that Adam Driver meme where he goes more. That's where I'm at.
I respect that.
Just more.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I feel like that's a respectable way to feel, though, because it's early enough in the season where we want to see more of this, right? Like last year, it was a historic April. And this is what Nick and I were talking about a little bit off the mic of like, well, it was a historic April, but they pissed it away in the month of May. And I think that's where a lot of Cubs fans stand right now, because this is a great start. Like, let's not undersell what the Cubs have done so far. You get a split in a 4-game set with the Diamondbacks where you say, okay, you should have won the series, but you still split. You didn't lose the series. Then you go and you take 2 of 3 from, at the time, an undefeated San Diego Padres team who had already played 7 games. You deliver them 2 out of 3 losses. Should have been all 3. Again, you couldn't say should have, but nonetheless. And then you turn around and you've guaranteed yourself a series win through 2 games with a very respectable Texas Rangers ball club. That feels good right now, sitting where the Cubs are, especially when, right, Nick, you alluded to it, how tough this April is.
Yep.
They got some bitch series coming up, man. And like a series win's nice here, and at least you have that. A sweep would be even cooler.
Sweep would be very nice.
But you look at what's to come, and it's almost like, all right, you got it. Back to the Adam Driver meme. More. You got to keep doing it. You got to keep doing it. It can't stop here.
Yeah. Well, they got to find that consistency gear. I mean, that's what I want to see this year is more consistency just over time. Last year, I felt like there were these really high ups and then really low lows. Like, just stay consistent. And like, you're going to have the bullpen blowing some games and stuff. But if you just keep up consistently, then it's much easier.
Yeah, because you could obviously tell when they were slumping bad. Or if they were really on a high note, it was very good. Like Nick said, there was just really no in between. They were either very good or just very, very bad. And it was like the sky was falling every game, and it was just frustrating.
And I think the 2024 Cubs felt a little bit like a repeat of 2023 because, like, I still vividly remember that team. I still remember the statistic come. It was the weekend following the All-Star break. I remember sitting at Murphy's bleachers watching MLB Network at 9:30 in the morning, because that's what we do as Cubs fans on Saturday mornings. And even though the Cubs were where they were as at that time, below 500 ball club, they had the second most games of 10-plus runs scored of anybody in baseball. And I think only the Texas Rangers were outpacing them at that time, who, as we all know, obviously they went on to win the World Series. So it was a lot of hot and cold. And I think a lot of that carried over to the 2024 team, where now we want to see more of the consistency factor in play. And gentlemen, I think we can take this in a form of where maybe that is going to be the case, because we've gotten to see it a lot, especially just in this Texas series so far. We haven't even talked about what they did against the Padres. They have been conquering the base paths, perhaps better than any Cubs team I can remember since probably the 2016 team. And maybe arguably even better, because I think they have faster players than they did during that time.
Yeah.
I mean, it feels like anytime, 2/3 of this lineup gets on base, they're a stolen base threat almost immediately.
Mm-hmm. And which is great when you're talking about cold weather games. Like last night, you get on base, PCA be at first, and all of a sudden he's at third with less than 2 outs. So you get that sac fly, bring him in, You get a guy like Justin Turner who has that game sense to get the ball out there, and they were able to manufacture that run. That's huge. Speed kills. And even PCA tonight, a couple of times I've noticed where fielders will rush and they lose their mechanics because they know you got to burn her down the line. You got to get that ball out, and they bobble it sometimes. And so it's like you said, Ron, speed is definitely a factor with this Cubs team. And once again, more. Give me more. I like this aggressiveness from this team.
100%. And I want to give some love to the comments here before we continue because our comment section is already electric to start the show. Jay says, "Go Cubbies. We got to crack them, boys, already." It is Tuesday, Dad. We can't be cracking them at this late at night. People got to be up at 5 o'clock in the morning. We got a yo in the comment section. Scott says he took on an entire Rangers watch party tonight and won. Love to hear it. That is the most Scott from Iowa comment I think awesome. We've had so far this season. Christopher Cole says it's a good game, but the Cubs should be 5-0 at home. I completely agree. Our boy Tom here says, don't count the Cubbies out of winning it all. Woo, he's flying high. Nate says, Russell, we're still at the top of the Central. We will be at the trade deadline. Guarantee Joe will get some bullpen help, as my dad says. The bullpen still needs some tweaking. And I think before we even talk about the pitching, because I think there's the Dr. Jekyll and the Mr. Hyde so far of the pitching. Again, that we're seeing from last year, but on maybe a little bit of a different level. I think the most impressive part with the base running was last night's game is a perfect example of that. They scored 7 runs on a sac fly, a single, and a single. And a triple. Like,
wow.
The ball didn't leave the ballpark. Only one of those were extra base hits. And you still manufactured runs because every single time it was. So think back to the 3rd inning? John Birdie gets hit by a pitch. John Birdie swipes second. John Birdie swipes third. And then because of his speed at third base, just a little chopper to Jake Berger at first is a run scored. This Cubs team last year wasn't doing shit like that.
No.
PCA is the same way. Hell, even Seiya Suzuki was swiping bags yesterday. Seiya takes second. Oh, would you look at that? A little poke single drives him in because he's in scoring position. Like, this Cubs team has that element to them this year that they did not have last year. And to me, that was the thing that was missing most about the Craig Counsell brand of baseball to this 2024 Cubs team, because you saw it consistently in Milwaukee. They were always a top 10 running team in terms of stolen bags with far inferior talent, in my humble opinion. And they would do the weird kind of small ball stuff well, right? You manufacture a run, you get aggressive on the base paths. Like, it might not be sexy in the box score, but it's effective and it helps you win games. We're starting to see that now with this version of Cubs baseball on the base paths. I think that's been the thing I've enjoyed the most. Don't get me wrong. I love watching Kyle Tucker hit homers in a Cubs uniform. It might be one of my favorite things that I've seen in baseball in 10 years. Everybody else is fun to watch hit the baseball, especially Dansby right now, who's swinging a hot bat, had a big homer tonight. Nobody picked him in our dinger picks either, which is tragic.
I know. And I was between them, which was even more tragic.
I was too. I literally stared at him for 3 minutes and was like,
I looked at him for quite some
and then I was like, no, because I'm going to take Justin Turner. You know why? Because Juice took him the one night, and I wanted to spite Juice, and that's what I get for trying to spite Juice. But neither here nor there. Gentlemen, I think that is the part I'm enjoying the most is this base running from this Cubs team, because it's just fun. Because, like you said, Nick, speed kills. And I feel like speed in baseball is probably the most underappreciated aspect of baseball, because everybody thinks, well, chicks dig the long ball. Yes, chicks do dig the long ball, but the nerdy baseball fan like myself digs the guy that can get on first, steal second, steal third, and get driven in with a sac fly, because that's what wins championships. It's that level of manufacturing a run the hard way that gives me a little bit of that hope that we will get to see the Adam Driver meme, Bobby, and we will get more of this Cubs offense as things continue this season. But we got a comment here from our friend, Mr. Joey Ricotta, who I spent a lot of time with this weekend. He says 7+ runs in 7 of their last 8 games. He said it is very early, but he loves this team, the speed, the homers, capitalizing and being aggressive. And I think that's something that we're all enjoying as well. And as my dad says, you can't teach speed.
I mean,
This
they just seem like a more like polished team. They don't seem like a year ago where it was like, okay, they're putting this random dude out here. We're putting Tomas Nito behind the plate. They just have all their ducks in a row with guys that belong for once, and it actually is encouraging. So, yeah.
Yeah, and Ron, what you said with the brand of baseball, Craig Counsell, that's a great point. That is exactly what they were missing, was the speed aspect. So I agree on that too.
And also quickly before we turn our attention toward the pitching side, because I feel like there'll be plenty of debate on that and what's to come with the pitching. The production from the catcher spot, I think, needs to be discussed, especially after this weekend series and now this Texas series, even, right? Miguel Amaya with a sac fly gets the scoring started last night. Carson Kelly with a huge 3-run homer on Saturday that blew that game open over the Padres and really allowed, Matt Boyd and company to coast the rest of the way and take care of business. You got to see a Brad Keller and those guys come in versus having to burn your bullets with guys like Ryan Presley and Porter Hodge. And then to add on to that, those guys just continue to hit. Like I talked about on the little opening day Eve show that I did from our Airbnb this past weekend. Like Carson Kelly was the first player to hit for a cycle since before I was born. I just turned 30 like a week and a half ago. So let that all sink in, right? Like the Cubs are getting catcher production that, yeah, you saw it with Wilson Contreras, but we saw a lot of Wilson DH later in his career. We haven't seen this level of catcher production of guys who are sturdy, kind of give you everything you need, I think, defensively from behind the plate. Dare I say, and I might get shattered in the comments for this, and I really don't care. Are we going back? Are we throwing it back to like Giovanni Soto, Jason Kendall days? Since the Cubs were even getting like any kind of production at the catching spot like that? I know they got the catching production during the World Series. Don't get me wrong, but like Miguel Montero was always known as a good hitting catcher. Wilson Contreras was a good hitting catcher. David Ross had the magical year because it was his last year and because baseball gods have a funny way of making shit happen, right? Like that's kind of an outlier. But if we're just talking like the guy that you don't expect, like nobody expected Carson Kelly to come in here and be hitting like 400 right now.
No.
This was not expected at all, right? Miguel Amaya, people were like, oh, hey, right? Joey, our great friend Joey Ricotta here has been, hyping up Miguel Amaya for months now. But like, did we expect this kind of production from the catching spot this early in the season? I don't think we did. And I think that's something that needs to be appreciated as well, too, because if these guys can even give you 2/3 of this the rest of the way, that makes such a huge difference when your speed of Horner, PCA, and Shaw / Birdie are getting on base lower in the lineup. You have that guy that can either drive them in or keep an inning alive to get you back to an Ian Happ, a Kyle Tucker, a Seiya Suzuki, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, again, the more complete team, Bobby. That was just a really long-winded way of supporting exactly what you had to say.
And I was also going to add back to your catcher lineage. I mean, Wellington Castillo wasn't that bad.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah,
That's true.
he's
Forgive me for blacking that out momentarily in my brain. It was a very dark time to be a Cubs fan. Well, I still recall the days of sitting there and going, "Wow, Brian LaHare could be a piece of this future." Yeah, those were dark times. At least we're past that now. Regardless of the catching position, we got to talk about the guys that are throwing the catchers the baseball. The pitching has been pretty good. I wouldn't call it necessarily spectacular,
No,
but it's been really good. And I think especially from your big guns that you need it from. Shota Imanaga continues to be impressive. He looked phenomenal on Friday in the home opener against the Padres. On Saturday, you got a sensational 6 innings out of Matthew Boyd. And then, yeah, Ben Brown is struggling a little bit. And maybe that just means in the future he's a bullpen guy, which they might need. You then get Justin Steele in 34-degree weather, which, Bobby, you dropped this in our Slack channel. It was a graphic by Marquee Sports Network. that the estimated temperature at first pitch for the Cubs game last night against the Texas Rangers on Monday was supposed to be 34 degrees. It was 4 degrees colder than puck drop for the Winter Classic, which was at Wrigley Field on New Year's Eve, which I attended, and I can promise you it was cold as shit. Justin Steele comes out, takes the baseball in that weather, gives you 7 extraordinary innings, and then they follow that up tonight with another quality start from Jameson Taillon. That's exactly what you needed from this pitching staff through 5 games of this 6-game homestand, and hopefully you continue to get more of that because I do believe Shota Imanaga throws tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the thing is we were always questioning the bullpen. Obviously, it's a big question mark coming into it, but getting this starting pitching going deeper and deeper starts to answer those questions. It takes away the extra pressure on Counsell where he has to go to guys that he's like, I don't trust in this situation. The deeper they can work in, the better it works out when you have not many guys in the circle of trust. Let's be honest with ourselves. So,
like you saw tonight with Merriweather, he had a short leash for him, and it was because of Taillon going a little bit deeper. He goes, okay, well, I have more tools in my tool chest or my toolbox, and I could go to Hodge even earlier if I wanted to. So,
and to double down on that argument, Bobby, you also didn't have to burn through Hodge on Monday because Justin Steele went 7, and then you had Colin Ray, who was super fresh because he hasn't thrown in what feels like a millennium. And he could go 2 innings. Oh, and by the way, he threw 2 perfect innings on top of it to just cruise through the rest of the game and get you out of there with no harm, no foul. That's what's going to be the most important thing for this bullpen this year is just keeping them fresh, because that has been the issue for this team since 2022. Hell, since 2021 even, is that starters couldn't go deep into games. It burned out the bullpen by June. And then they fell apart in the middle of the summer. And then we were sitting here with our thumbs up our asses as fans, wondering where do we go now? Hopefully they can avoid that this year and things can get a lot better. A couple incredible comments in the comment section, some paragraphs that I will encourage people to read and come over to the YouTube and check out over at On Tap Sports and on YouTube. You can find us here, like, subscribe, hit the bell button. You guys know the drill. But a lot of talk about PCA. And yes, he's inconsistent with the bat, but it feels like every time he has been on base, has done anything, he's made an impact because of his base running, because of that X factor that he brings. I think, and this is a great stat, 17 steals already by Nico PCA and John Berge. That doesn't even factor in that I think Seiya Suzuki has 3 stolen bags. Ian Happ has 1 or 2. Kyle Tucker, I think, has 1 or 2. Like you're getting stealing production from the not so normal guys too. But you got these guys putting up 17 steals through, quick math here, 14 games. That's pretty good.
that'll work.
That's pretty good. We'll take that. That'll do just fine. But gentlemen, just wanted to get back to the pitching here. Where do we stand? We as a collective, we here at Cubs on Tap, in terms of how the bullpen feels, because it's early, right? It's early to a point where I'm not going to panic about anything.
Yeah.
Because
I think it's early too, because it's basically they have the right formula. They have a guy who's gone out and done it before in the 9th. Given his experience, I'm not that deeply concerned with Presley like everyone else is. Like, oh, the sky's falling on this guy, but I don't know. I'll give him more time with Presley. I think they're going on the right track. So,
yeah, I agree. I'm not ready to panic at all. Honestly, I was a little bit more concerned coming into the season, and what I've seen so far, it backs up the argument of there is a lot of depth there. And like you said, Colin Ray the other day was fresh as could be. So when you get those guys like that can eat up innings, that's just huge. So there are a bunch of guys in the pen that definitely I underestimated coming into the season. So like Bobby says, I agree. I think they have the right formula. It's just a matter of can Counsell put it all together to work. And then I'll add this. I loved seeing Hodge go multiple innings too. I mean, that he's he's perfect for that.
Yeah, he's to me, he's the perfect like 5 outs or less guy. I don't know if I'd give him a full 2, but like, hey, we're in a dirty inning and I need you to pitch the 8th, like tonight.
Yep.
Can you come in and get me a big strikeout in the 7th to get out of some shit? And yeah, he got hit a little bit in the 8th, and it is what it is. And he ultimately actually got the win tonight. So again, pitcher wins are super fun. But again, taking care of business there. Because guys, the reason I asked that is, and the reason I'm also not panicking is this. We saw guys figure it out last year as the season went on that were here in the beginning, right? Albeit not a ton of them, right? Because there was a lot of turnover from that 2024 bullpen to this year's. But I also have confidence in what Jed Hoyer can do on the fly because of what he did last year, right? Where early in the season, everybody went, what the hell are they going to do with the bullpen? To, wow, this is the best bullpen in baseball in the second half. And it was guys that he just picked up along the way for pennies on the dollar. It was Tyson Miller because they had to DFA him because he was out of options, and Seattle just happened to have a really loaded bullpen. Oh, darn. Jorge Lopez, a weird situation in New York that the Cubs took advantage of, and he was really good down the stretch. And then Porter Hodge, just a guy that, didn't start the season on the team, but was ready, came up, and was available. And I think that avenue this year becomes so much more open, I guess, for lack of a better term, in the sense of hopefully Cade Horton stays healthy. If you're in a pennant chase, are you willing to let him get his first big league taste as a nasty 1-inning reliever? I'd be okay with that, especially if you're competitive. Why not? Chris Sale closed games once upon a time before becoming a starter. We've seen it time and time again where guys have come out of the pen before becoming a full-time starter. It's fine. It can happen. Ben Brown could go back to the bullpen, potentially when Javier Assad's healthy, because Javier Assad, despite how some people feel about him, has statistically been a very reliable starter. Maybe they get a guy who's a DFA candidate at some point in the season who can come in here and the Cubs like what he does. He has to be a fastball slider guy, though. Jed's got a type. But if they get one of those guys, right, maybe he can come in and work things out. Maybe Nate Pearson just settles in because we saw the upside of what he could be late last year when he was acquired at the trade deadline. So I agree with you guys. Is it frustrating as hell to watch it again? 100%. The most frustrating shit on the face of the earth. But I fully believe that there is more that can come. And for that reason, we will not panic. I will say this. My dad drops in the comments here, says Robertson. What do you guys think about Robertson? Because I have a personal feeling about more the situation than the player. But I would love to hear what you two think about, them just plucking David Robertson off the street right now and bringing him into this bullpen. Probably wouldn't be right away, of course. He would need to get some minor league time and things like that. But what say you about the possibility of reuniting David Robertson with the Chicago Cubs?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not opposed to it at all. Obviously, it wouldn't be a move you make and he's right away going to be pitching for you. You need some time, like you said, but I'm definitely not opposed to it, especially if there's further issues with this bullpen. Then yes,
definitely.
I mean, you could you can use all the arms you can get, but like you said, he's going to have a ramp up period. He's almost 40, and it's just, I don't know. It's if they want to do it, but I'm not going to be like, oh, he's automatically the savior day one. So
definitely. I kind of agree here with what Tom says in the comments. He says, I would like Robertson, but 2 months ago, I dislike using players that haven't been with the team in spring training. I fully agree with that. And you know why? Because I can already feel it bubbling in my stomach, the acid reflux of Craig Kimbrell signing halfway through the season to be the savior in the Cubs bullpen and being absolute ass. And he was far younger than David Robertson. So Sure, maybe you bring him in, but he's got to go to Iowa for at least, 2 months
Oh, yeah.
to get the proper work to ramp up to be an everyday role. At that point, you're better off just claiming some guy off the DFA, putting him on your 40-man and saying, hey, man, at least you pitched in the last 2 weeks. That's the thing that scares me with guys like that, is there's just not a lot of history that favors that move when these guys haven't been pitching. And I don't care how much you throw on the side and throw on your own. It's not competitive level with a team who's there to support you and all that good stuff. And he says, no, come on. He's a vet and he knows how to stay ready. Craig Kimbrell was a vet and knows how to stay ready too. And
it's harder. It's harder with pitchers because they got to build up their arm strength. Like, you can't just bring in a bat and he's going to hit 300 coming right out the gate.
And here's the other thing with that. He has no rapport with Kelly or Amaya.
Mm-hmm.
You can't build that when he's in Iowa. They're not going to send Carson Kelly on a private jet to go catch him once a week. That's ridiculous. And I know it's not rocket science, right? Like, yeah, you're throwing to a guy, right? A guy like Robertson probably would figure out with a catcher quickly. But if he goes to Iowa, it's going to take him 2 months. So if you're going to make that move, you got to do it like tomorrow, knowing that he's not even available to you until after Memorial Day. And again, at that point, if you have a month of May like the Cubs did a season ago, where they won 10 games again for the second year in a row, and it made me want to vomit, that's not a recipe for success. You know what I mean? So it's gonna be something interesting to watch there. Jay asks a question. He says, if they rain out tomorrow, do they play sometime on Thursday? Doubtful, because I believe both teams go on the road. The Cubs have to go to California. So the reason the off day is there is specifically to kind of take care of that of sorts. So I don't know where that's going to go. But speaking of tomorrow, let's talk about tomorrow, and we'll round out the show here. We'll be back Thursday. There will be another show. It'll be an off-day show. We'll go down all different kinds of rabbit holes. It's going to be awesome. We don't know who the panelists are yet, but it's likely to be a fun one. We got one more game. Jay brings up a fair point. There is rain in the forecast.
Yeah.
So we don't know what the day looks like, but it is supposed to be, I believe, later in the evening, and the Cubs do play at 1:00 tomorrow. So that might save their ass, depending on how the rain comes. But nonetheless, the expectation is Tyler Mahle is going to throw for the Rangers. He's had a really good start to the season, 3 starts so far. He's 1-0 with a 1.35 ERA. But of course, it's Shota Imanaga on the bump tomorrow for the Cubbies. He has a sub-1 ERA through his first trio of starts and is obviously 2-0, given what he has done so far. Gentlemen, how do we feel about tomorrow's game? Do the Cubs break out the brooms this time, or do they pull a Padres series and let one get away?
Well, I think it's kind of going to be difficult when you have such a talent like Shota on the mound. There's a lot of room for error, so I would say a sweep.
Yeah, I agree.
I like it. I like the confidence. I'm going to agree with you guys. I think this is, especially because this Texas team just looks all discombobulated. This feels like the time to take advantage of it. And hey, build some good momentum, because you got to go out to California and play the Padres and the Dodgers. You got 6 really hard games starting on Friday. Take advantage, get on a plane, go enjoy your off day in California, and then get to work and take care of business with hopefully 4 out of 6 over the course of the weekend, and you win a couple of series. That'd be cool. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. But as always, I want to remind everybody that Cubs on Tap is one of 2 Cubs shows here at the On Tap Sports Network. Check out our friends over at the Dingers Podcast. They were live last night right here on the On Tap Sports Net YouTube channel and over on their social platforms. Be sure to give them a love and follow at Dinger Cubs. You know the drill. You know where to follow all of us. We're not going to go through all of it. And in addition to that, of course, we have every other team that we cover here in Chicago. So ontapsportsnet.com and at ontapsportsnet on the socials is where you can find us. The On Tap Sports Net. Go and check out what's on tap in Chicago sports. Cubs win 2 out of 3 at least against the Rangers. They have a chance at the sweep tomorrow. And this was their 3rd straight series win, back-to-back series wins at Wrigley Field. The boys are feeling good. We're feeling good. We're feeling optimistic here at Cubs on Tap. and hopefully the Cubs can provide more. As I believe this was kind of the theme of the show. More. We want more. We want them to keep the foot on the gas and win a couple more series, get a sweep tomorrow, and then take that into the West Coast pair of series over the weekend. Gentlemen, what do you say? We get out here the only way we know how at Cubs on Tap?
I'd hate to be a Cardinals fan because fuck the Cardinals.
And let's go Cubbies, baby.